Let me tell you guys the story of my brother Daniel's death. Now this happened this year, 4 months ago, in the beginning of May. It's kind of a sad story, but before I tell it, let's have a moment of silence in the memory of Daniel Lee Martinez, which is who this story is about.
Debbie time!
So my brother was 5 years older than me. We never got along. We were always fighting. There was no love between me and him. So I'm not telling this story from the perspective of, oh, I loved him, I treated him right. Nothing like that. I'm gonna tell the honest truth. Me and my brother fought all the time. We argued every day when I was out here. When he was alive, we argued every day. When I went to jail, it was for fighting with him. When I got my violation, it was for fighting with him. We didn't get along for nothing. And now that he's gone, I do regret treating him like shit. I do regret fighting with him all the time. But I can't change the past, and I'm not gonna sit here saying I loved him and lie like everybody does. They usually say that when you die. They want to act like they loved you and they cared about you. But how come they didn't say that when you were alive, right? So I'm just going to tell you the story of how he died because it was a sad day. So my brother was an alcoholic, and lately it had been getting worse and worse. He was up to about a gallon every other day, so about a fifth a day of vodka. And he would drink that Dark Eyes vodka or Crystal Palace. He was almost pretty much drinking rubbing alcohol. And on top of that, he would drink beer, smoke a pack of cigarettes a day, and he wouldn't eat healthy at all. He was very unhealthy, not just in his body, but in his mind. See, my brother had a hard life, just like we did. He lost his mom just like I did. He lost his brother just like I did. He had problems as a child that I don't want to speak about because we keep this in the family. But there were some other things that happened to us kids. Abuse, things like that, things of that nature. And he was always haunted by that. It always haunted him. I remember he was always drunk and crying about things that happened in the past. He was a haunted man, depressed. Me and my wife had just been telling him that it was gonna kill him. And he said that he knew it was gonna kill him. He didn't care. He was at the point in his life where he didn't care no more. He wanted to die. He didn't have nothing to live for no more except for alcohol. So at the time, like I told you, me and my brother were fighting every day. And when he was drunk, he would drunk text me over and over and over and over. So I had to block his number. Well, one night, my grandpa had to go to a doctor appointment in Farmington, so he was out of town. He was out of town overnight, so he wasn't at the house. While the next morning, kinda later into the afternoon, my grandpa came home from his doctor appointment and he rushed into the house asking if Daniel was okay. So we told my grandpa, yeah, he's okay, he's in the room sleeping. Well, that's what we thought. So I guess that morning my brother Daniel fell off the bed and he couldn't get up. And this has happened before. He's fallen off the bed and we walked in on the room and found him on the floor and had to lift him up and put him back on the bed because he gets drunk and trips, or he stumbles and falls and can't get up. Now this would happen all the time, so this seemed normal. Well, I guess he called my grandpa that morning and told him he fell off the bed but that he couldn't get up and that he couldn't feel his legs and his arms and that he was numb and that he was having a hard time breathing. He couldn't call me because I had him blocked, like I said before, because we were fighting all the time. He couldn't call my nephew Marcos, who was in the other room, because he was asleep, so he didn't answer his phone. So he was stuck on the floor in his room, pinned like almost halfway under the bed, and I didn't know this the whole time. My wife didn't know this either. None of us knew this. So when my grandpa came home and rushed in asking if Daniel was okay, we're like, yeah, he's just in his room, because that's what we thought. He was always just in his room. So grandpa said what he said, that Daniel had called him and told him what he told him earlier in the morning. So we went to see if he was okay. He wasn't even in the room because he was on the other side of the bed on the floor. We couldn't see him. We had to walk around and he was on the floor. So we thought he just fell drunk. That was my first thought. So we were gonna lift him up and put him back on the bed. And so we did. Me and my grandpa and my nephew, it took all three of us to lift him. We had to move the bed, by the way. He was pinned under the bed, like I said a little bit. So we had to move the bed just to get it out of his way and then pick him up, and we sat him on the bed. And he was kind of there but incoherent. So all he was saying was water, water. So my grandpa told us to go get water. So we went and got him water, and we were trying to give him water, but he was trying to drink it and his lips he just couldn't wrap his lips around and tighten them around the water. So I went and grabbed a straw and put a straw in it and tried to put that in his mouth. He couldn't grasp his lips around the straw either. I was telling my nephew, just call 911. We don't know what to do. They don't know what to do. And my nephew was on the phone trying to call 911. And Daniel did say he didn't want to go to the hospital. He heard us saying that we were calling 911. And he said that he didn't need it. But all he kept saying is that he was thirsty. Anyway, so the ambulance came and they went into his room. And we were waiting outside to see what they were going to do. See what was wrong with him. See if he was okay. See what the case was. And while we were waiting outside, me, my wife, my baby, my grandpa, my nephew, we seen that all the paramedics started acting erratic and like grabbing the stretcher and running like an emergency, running into the house. And that's when I knew something was wrong. Then they grabbed him, rolled him out on the stretcher. My grandpa told him, "I'll see you later, Hito. I'll go pick you up." And then he left. Well, after he left, about an hour later, my grandpa and my nephew went to the hospital to go see him. Well, they said he wasn't at the hospitals. Santa Fe only has 2 hospitals. So they went to both of them and they couldn't find him. So he tried making calls and they had nobody under that name in either of the hospitals. We tried calling Albuquerque. We just couldn't find him. So my grandpa said he was gonna just go to bed and we'll check on it in the morning. So when the morning came, me and my wife were the first ones up and she was on the phone, making phone call after phone call trying to locate him. We were searching for him and couldn't find him. Nobody knew where he was, none of the hospitals. The only people that did know was the EMTs, the paramedics, because the fire station is down the street from my grandpa's. So those were the ones that responded. So we called them and they remembered coming and picking him up. They remembered Daniel Martinez by name. They remember taking him to St. Vincent's Hospital and dropping him off. Before he left, the officers and the paramedics got his information from my grandpa. They got his name, his birthday, they got all that. And they got my grandpa's name and number and told him they would call. But now we couldn't find him. Well, after a few hours of calling, my wife finally got a hold of the doctor who said that he didn't make it. I guess sometime around 3 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning, he died. They're labeling it cardiac arrest. So I guess he died of a heart attack overnight in the hospital. But what we were confused is why did they want to tell us anything? They didn't even want to tell us he was at their hospital. They didn't even want to tell us he existed. It's like they were hiding something. I've always wondered if they're hiding something, maybe some kind of malpractice, maybe they did something wrong, maybe we have a lawsuit. But anyway, we didn't pursue it, so it is what it is. Well, this happened 4 months ago, so it's recent. I wanted to tell this story the way it happened. It's kind of messed up. Rest in peace to Daniel Martinez. Anyway, I just wanted to tell you guys another story of something that happened in my life. This was a recent story. I hope you guys liked it. This is Tragedy. Thank you for watching. I'm out.